Hello, I'm Jasmine Sutherland, and as of this recording, I am a fourth-year senior with the Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University School of Journalism and Graphic Communication, and this is your Legal Launchpad. Now, during the summer semester 2024, I successfully completed an internship with the FAMU College of Law Office of Advancement and Alumni Affairs. Now, although the internship was remote, it provided me with a trove of insight into the College of Law, which was once located on the main campus before reopening in Orlando of 2002. Now, polling my peers, many of us were unaware of the College of Law, and the idea of this podcast was to shed more light on the Juris Doctor program offered at Florida A&M University. In this episode, we continue our conversation with Dr. Erika Hill, the director of FAMU Legal Scholars Program, on the ins and the outs of the FAMU College of Law admissions process. This is your Legal Launchpad.
Your Legal Launchpad.
What are some key strategies you employ students to have when applying to high caliber law schools?
Well, I would say law schools in general is do your research. I know when we're traveling all over the country looking for students to come be a part of our family here, I'd say maybe a pet peeve or when students will walk up to a table and say, hey, tell me about you. What can you do for me? And why are you better than other law schools? And I stop them gently and say,
Nurturing.
yes, when you approach, because you're now looking at a professional program, right? You should have already done some research because that's what law school is, right? You should have a list of questions, 5 to 10 things that mean something to you, and have a starting point for the person that you're talking to, because a lot of the times that's the person who's going to read your file. They're putting a face with a name. So make sure that you've done your research. Look up what you want to do. Even before that, if you know you want to go to law school, people think that process starts when you're in college, but there's a skill set. There are some things that you should actually start doing middle school as far as reading, analytical skills, thinking. I tell people all the time, they'll bring someone who is in 6th grade to my table, and someone say, oh, it's too soon, and actually it's not, because students at that or kids are inquisitive, right? So we've all had the brother or the little sister, or in our case, grandchildren, that ask why. They ask you a question and then you answer it, and then they say why again. And you answer that, and you going down this rabbit hole, and it's the why and the why. And to us, it may seem aggravating, but to them, that's learning, right?
That's how their brains work.
Right. Let them continue to ask the questions so they can get beyond the surface. So I think that starts at, again, a very early age, or having students read, ask them questions about what they read, to have a conversation. I tell students now, we've kind of been taught to memorize from school, kindergarten all the way through.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. When you're preparing for a test, you get a study guide. You read the study guide, you study, you pass the test. But I ask those students, if I give you that same test in 3 weeks, can you pass it?
What would you have retained?
What did you retain? Law school is different. Law school is asking you what you know. What do you think about something? They're asking you for your thoughts. And, students will, oh, well, the book says, and that's not what they want to know. What do you think? So even in the admissions process, I know it sounds like it's a canned response, but the thing is, we want to know what you bring to the table. Your lived experiences is something that I'm studying on the side called cultural wealth, right? So everybody talks about when diversity, about, race or this or that, and it has nothing to do with that. It's your human experience. Cultural wealth is, where did you go to school? How did you grow up? What happened when you got your heart broke the first time? What happens when you have a best friend and they go somewhere? What happens if you didn't get into a program? What's your relationship with your siblings or your parents, or those things? That's the wealth that you have that nobody else has. Your experience is definitely going to be different. So I encourage them. One of the things they do in my class is a portfolio. And a lot of that is bringing up, who are you?
Your eye story.
And going beyond the surface, what cultural wealth do you have that you can add to the law school? Because this is a symbiotic relationship. We're here for each other, right?
Yeah.
You're going to bring something and I'm going to bring something. But what are you going to bring in a discussion that nobody else has? So nobody else has your lived experience when it comes to a certain thing. We can, whether it's, politics that they're talking about, laws, rights, whatever these things are, when students respond to those, that's what they're responding with, is who they are, because that's the only way we can do something is based on our own experiences. And I'm trying to get them to understand now that's what's going to happen when they get to law school. You're bringing your experiences to the answer. It's not anything that you've been able to memorize. Do you have to know these laws or rules or, policies or processes? Absolutely. But you're not going to be able to memorize these things. And they'll do better. I told them if students start that process early, it helps them in undergrad, but it also helps them prepare for the LSAT test, right?
Yeah.
And that's analytical skills, the writing, the reading comprehension. If you've incorporated those things into your curriculum and how you study, when you get ready to study for that test, you're not cramming everything. You're building that skill set that you're going to need for law school.
Wow, I just learned something new myself. Okay, and I love that. I never thought about your experience and how that drives you as a lawyer, how you would engage in representing someone, how you would do it differently than someone else just based off your lived experiences.
Absolutely.
Cultural wealth. Okay. So from your experience, what are the most common mistakes prospective law students make during the application process? And I know you mentioned that a pet peeve was like their research. So we know that's a thing that students need to be doing. But what are other common mistakes?
They think that each law school's process is the same. So I tell them to read the instructions. You have some law schools who will give you a prompt for your personal statement, right? Who will say, hey, tell me why. Why do you want to apply?
Yeah.
Some ask you to list 4 or 5 things. But students will get one personal statement and they will send that to all of the law schools.
It's like a one size
without reading.
all.
And sometimes you may get a personal statement from someone that has another school's name in it. So how does that reflect? And, if you're thinking as attorneys and lawyers, everything, you're turning that in. What if that was a client?
Yeah.
And you made a mistake and wrote one thing, maybe there was a recommendation of something that it may have been 3 months and you end up putting 3 years or 30 years in there. Some of our admissions committee, they look at your personal statement as a writing sample, right? Even though there's a writing sample on the LSAT, which is timed, right? That's on the spot. Write me something right now. But your personal statement, sometimes you can take up to a year, 2 years. So that should be perfect. That's when you've had time, you've had somebody look at it, you've been able to take it to a writing center, all of those
Use
other
all
things.
your resources.
Right. So now I have two things to compare. Writing on the spot, and then you having to take your time and do it. So again, read the instructions, make sure, like even with law schools, we have a faculty committee. Our faculty takes part, beyond their regular duties for teaching. They're on these committees, they read these files. In some offices, it's just your admissions people. It may just be the dean of admissions and the director who makes those decisions. So you may get that answer in 2 weeks because it's only those 2 people. But if you have 5 professors who are reading files, in addition to the other duties and responsibilities that they have with their classes, it may take a little while longer. So I tell them, ask how the committee is made up. What's the timeline? What's needed? Have students who say, well, I'm going to take it now, the LSAT. And then if I don't do well, I'm going to take it again. And my thing is shoot your best shot the first time, right? If you have time to prepare, our application normally opens October 1st and it closes on April 30th. You have 4 tests that you can take in between that. Get all of your things together. If you need letters of recommendation, First start making relationships with your professors,
Very important.
and I know sometimes classes are larger in different places, but I tell them if you're going to talk to a professor, make sure you got a good grade in their class, preferably an A. If you wrote something in their class and you did very well on an assignment, take that with you and take your transcript. If you have your personal statement already done, so that that person can give insight and really write a letter about you instead of just saying, hey, this person was in my class, I think she'll do well, because that's not going to help us. When we're looking at letters of recommendation, we're trying to see what this person is saying about you, a skill set that you have that's transferred over to the classroom if you're accepted as a student here.
That would be an amazing recommendation letter. Great tips. I'm taking those tips as a journalist, just a journalism student.
Your Legal Launchpad.
When it comes to the application process, aside from test scores, what else would allow me to stand out?
Your Legal Launchpad.
What attributes or experiences do you believe make an applicant stand out in the competitive field of law applications? What's that thing that at recruitment, at admissions, you see and you're like, oh, I want that student?
Well, that's kind of hard because we don't really do interviews, right?
Okay.
But I tell students, and I try to be as transparent as possible. I tell people I'm not a used car salesman. I am not trying to sell dreams. I'm trying to help you get there. But your academics are your foundation. It's like building a house. You have to have done the work, right?
Yeah.
And we know that there are highs and lows that happen in school. Your transcript, may have been this, and maybe you started out and you wanted to be a medical doctor, and then you realize, that's not gonna really work for me. And then you decided to go over into political science. So we know, okay, it might be a little bump, right? But there has to be something that's consistent, and hopefully your trajectory of your grades have maintained at a high point. But again, even if something happened, because we know life happens,
yeah.
make sure that you tell us that. Don't let us assume anything. So the first thing on that, as far as the students, is having a solid academic career. Right now, our average student has a 3.52 GPA, right? That's only going to climb. So making sure you have that. And that's the average, for the students. I always tell my students, look for the 75th percentile when you're doing the research. Students, the schools will put their averages out there, or their median scores. And students sometimes will say, well, what's the lowest score I can use to get in? And it's like, that's not what we're looking for. And I tell them, whether you're talking to me or anybody else, don't say that part.
Shoot your best
particularly
shot.
again. And then the other aspect is studying for the LSAT. If you, again, you're getting ready to do this, make sure you've done your part, you put everything in. And I'll ask students, well, what happened when you walked out? How did you feel? And if they felt that they left it all on the table, and I was like, that's all we got, right?
Yeah. That's your best.
So, and then the earlier the students start the process, sometimes we get students right at juniors or seniors in college. But again, we go and we speak with high school students all the time, and the way that things are going now, schools are getting a lot of high school students who are coming directly to the university with AA degrees.
Ooh, yes.
So, but you've already started applying, because when you apply for law school, we use your whole academic career. So even if you're in 10th grade and you're taking classes, if you're getting dual enrollment in that class is going to count. So I already tell them, well, you already started applying to school. So making sure, tell them protect their GPA.
At all costs.
Absolutely. And make sure that you're prepared for that test. And then outside of that, again, it goes back to the other things that you can add, because we want the whole person.
The whole story. Your
Right.
I story is very important.
Your Legal Launchpad by Florida A&M University College of Law. Origin, Jasmine Sutherland. Hosts, Amber Newsom and Jasmine Sutherland. Producers, Crystal Eugene, Cynthia Germain, Kayla Joseph and Leanna O'Sullivan. Camera, Kayla Joseph and Leanna O'Sullivan. Audio, Riley Gibson. Set design, Crystal Eugene and Cynthia Germain. Editing, Riley Gibson. Intro voice actress, Briché DeVault. Credits voice actor, Riley Gibson. Executive producers, Mildred Graham and Robin Holmes.
Hey, it's Amber. Thank you for tuning in to your Legal Launchpad. Stay tuned for the next episode where we will conclude our discussion about admissions with Dr. Hill. See ya.